Hello, today in this tutorial we're going to be doing some match moving, and the footage we're going to match move is this sign by here, and this will be our final result, where we track this welcome to New York onto the sign. You can do whatever you want. You can have welcome to Quahog or whatever you want on the sign, but I'll be showing you how to do that. Once you've got the track, you can put whatever you want on there. Yeah, let's get started. Now, I've already imported my footage, you can see here. I made sure that it came in as 30 frames per second, so I changed it to 25. That's right click, interpret footage, main, changes to 25, click OK. And I clicked and dragged it into a new composition. So this is the piece of footage we're working with. You can see it's quite shaky. So what we need to do is first of all track the motion, because we need to clean it up, get rid of all the words on there, and then we can put whatever words we want. So what I'm going to do in order to track the motion, I'm going to come to my tracker at the side. If you haven't got this, it should be on the right hand side, but again, if you can't see it anywhere here, just go to Window and then Tracker. So as soon as I hit Track Motion, make sure this layer is selected, and as soon as I go Track Motion, you can see it opens it up in the Layers panel now. We got this bar along the bottom, whereas before in the composition, as soon as you hit the tracker, so let's do it again, track motion, it opens it up in the layers panel, and you can see right in the middle we've got this weird point which we can move around. Now let's first of all, I'm going to drag out these inner corners big and then pull them back in. So first of all, I'm going to go over what this means. So this inner square, this is the area that the tracker will be looking for throughout the shot. So let's say you always want a contrasting point. Okay, so let's say we're going to track this 2 throughout the shot, so we can line that up and just make it quite tight. We'll zoom in quite tight around the 2 like that. So let's move these corners, reposition it. So basically, this is the area that this is what we're going to be. This is what the software will be looking for. Anything inside this box is what the software will be looking to track throughout the shot. Now this outer square is the area it will be looking. So let's say you made the inner square around the 2 and you had this outer square out wide like this. Now you've got another 2 down here, so it could jump down there, and you never want to make them this big because it's going to be searching this whole area, and you don't want to do that, it'll take too long. So just if you've got, not a lot of movement, you can make it quite tight. If you've got quite a bit of movement, you can make it, a little bit wider. So something like that for this shot should be good. So the inside square is what the software will be looking for. It'll be looking for this 2 throughout the software, and this is the area it will be looking for that number 2 in. I've set my first one, and if I were to go ahead and track that, what would happen is you'd only have positional data, X and Y, but we want positional data, rotational, and scale. So in order to do that, if you click down rotation and scale, just by clicking those 2, you get another tracking point. So we can come in, and I'm going to move this one down to, let's say this 2 down here. So again, I'm going to make it big and bring that back in. I'm going to put this around this number 2 by here, make it a bit smaller, drag in a corner. One thing you don't want to do is drag this little dot. You can see they're not linked anymore, and you've got this tracker down here, they're not linked. You don't want to do that, so I'm going to undo. Just make sure that you're not doing that, because if when you start off with small squares, if you're zoomed out, you may go, do that, and you've dragged this little dot, and you don't want to do that, so undo. So I'm going to set this boundary by clicking and dragging it around that 2, and now again, if I make it too wide, it'll end up jumping to that 2 and it won't give you a good track. So I'm just going to make it the area that it'll search for is that big. So I've set those 2 on the very first frame, and all I'm going to do now is down here you can either analyze 1 frame forward, so it'll look at the next frame and it'll follow it throughout. So if I click this loads of times, you can see, let's click it a few more times, you can see that if we go back a little bit, you can see that we're following that 2, and we're doing that on both of them as well. But I want to do it all together. If you come into problems in tracking, that's how you go through one frame at a time and see where it's slipping. But I'm going to click this analyze forward. This is the 1 frame forward, and I'm going to click this analyze forward, and it should do it for the whole shot. Now it does take a little bit of time, is 8 seconds, just under 8 seconds worth of footage. It's going quite quick actually. It's already nearly done the second one. So as I said earlier, if you just track with one point, just this one up here, the only data you'll get is position data, like X and Y, sort of left and right, up and down. But we want any, because the camera's doing a little bit of rotation, I go in a little bit with the camera, not enough to see, but you know, if you don't track the scale, because as I go in with the camera it gets ever so slightly bigger, if you don't track it, it'll give you some problems and your whatever you do won't stick. So that's always important that you do that. So let's just wait, it's got 1 second left to track, and then let's have a look at what we've got. Okay, so it's done. So you can see that this is the path that throughout the shot, this is the path it follows. So we're locking onto, what we're doing is locking onto that number 2, and we're tracing that movement throughout the shot. So now when we do our cleanup, we can, you know, we'll do the cleanup based on a first frame, so we'll export this first frame as a PSD like we've done before. We'll do some cleanup, get rid of all the words, and then obviously if we put it on top, it's not going to move with it. But now we've got all this data, we can attach that data to our one clean frame and it'll move throughout. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come to the first frame, I'm gonna go to composition, I'm gonna save frame as, and save that as, no wait there, sorry. Come back in, save frame as Photoshop layers, and I'm going to call this, I've already got one, I called it sign, let's call it sign cleanup 2, and that'll save it as a PSD file. So now what I can do is I can open my Photoshop and it'll open this frame inside Photoshop where I can start painting out central London, Thornton Heath and all that. So I'm going to pause it until it loads up because it takes a little while on my PC, so I'll join you in a second. Okay, so I'm back and we're inside of Photoshop now where I have opened up that single frame. So what we need to do, like we've done in other cleanup tutorials, first of all make a new layer, and this is where you'll be making adjustments. So I'll just double click this, call this cleanup because that's what we're doing, and I will get the clone stamp tool. And just again, like we've done before, I'm going to zoom in. Here we go. Zoom in like so. I've got the clone stamp tool. I'm going to hold Alt. So let's make sure I'm on the right layer. You may want to make sure this is set to current and below, not just current layer. Hold Alt, and then we'll source in these green pixels, and I can start painting in like that. Now you may be wondering why mine's not letting me doing it. It's because my opacity for that brush is set to 38%. So let's pull this up to 100, and now I can paint over like so. So remember to keep on sourcing different bits like so, and just keep on building upon that until you've got rid of absolutely everything. You can make this brush smaller, and these lines which go across here, you want to make sure that you maintain these like so, and then you can just get different pixels just to blend it a little bit better, and basically it's just repeating this. Okay, so try and pick similar greens. I made a mistake there. Try and pick similar greens throughout, that's quite important. So again, if I was painting these blues down here, well, that's better. You can see there's a little bit of a difference between the greens here and the greens here. So make sure you're sourcing the right shades of green. Just keep on doing that, and you can see I've nearly gotten rid of one area. Now there's a little bit of difference in green by here, and what I tend to do to cover that up is bring my opacity down to something like, I don't know, 22 or 20, and just get some of these other bluish greens and just basically build them up so you got that fade. It paints them on very subtly, it's very subtle, but it does help a lot. So remember to push this back up to 100, and then I just want to build this line up a bit more across here, and just get some more of it, and there you go. Start getting rid of that, and I'm going to pause it here because I don't want to make you watch me, but actually first of all, before I do, you can see it's a bit blue around this area, and then it doesn't join very well. So again, what I'll do is I'll get my clone stamp tool, bring the opacity down to something like 30, get some greens from down here, and just start building this up, you know, just start blending these greens in a little bit better, and it just blends it nice. Okay, so carry on painting out the whole thing. I'm going to pause it while I do mine, and then I'll join you back in a few seconds because I don't want to make you sit through all that. Okay, so we're back inside, and basically I've got my, this is one I did earlier, so I'll rename this to cleanup, and so you can see we've got my cleanup here and it gets rid of everything. So let's take the bottom layer off, and this is all it is, just that on top. So I've done that, and I want to save this out as a TIFF. So I'll go File, Save As, and let's call this Sign Clean. Remember to save it as a TIFF. Go Save. Oh, I've already got something called Sign Clean. Because I did this earlier, obviously. So I'll go Sign Clean version 2. And you want to make sure Save Transparency is on, and I discard layers as well. You want to do that. So click OK, and then it'll save it. Now the other thing before we leave here is we can go ahead and make our text inside of After Effects. However, in terms of lining up perspectives, I find it a lot easier to do it inside of Photoshop as written here anyway. So the first thing I'll do is get my text tool and just click, and I'll type the word welcome. I think I'll just stick with Arial regular for this, but right now if we were to, you know, make this, let's say, make this a bit bigger, it doesn't really fit on there in terms of perspective, so I'll just give it a little skew just like that, very subtle. Maybe make it a bit bigger, and we'll be compositing it, you know, making sure it's as blurred as the sign, and, you know, color correcting it. We'll be doing that all inside of After Effects, but I just want to repeat this process, so I'm going to get another thing now. So welcome to, and then I'll have new, and then York. So let's go in a little bit. I want to make sure that this O is the same size as this O here, so I'm just going to drag it up and make sure it's basically the same size so it looks consistent. Okay, and I think that's about it. Yeah, so I'm going to move that to here, give it a little bit of a skew. It's too much. Let's zoom in if you want to make it more subtle. So holding Control, by the way, Control and clicking on these sides. I'm going to go with that for now, just to make it nice and quick. And what I'm going to do is come to here, type in new, and again I want to scale this up, and I want to make sure that this E or this W is the same size. Let's go with the E. So yeah, near enough. Yeah, something like that. So I can bring this down here, and again I'm going to zoom in, position it a bit further down, and I'm just going to skew it slightly. I'm holding Control and just drag that point. That's still a little bit too much, so Control, just click it, very subtle, something like that. You can turn off that snap in as well, so snap to none, and hopefully it'll, yeah, it turns off that snap in. Cool. So just something like that will do. There you go. I'm not going to spend too much time on that. I'm going to center it a bit. There you go. So finally, the last one is I'm going to do the word York. And again, scale this up so the zero is the same. No, the O, sorry, is the same size. The context for this, let's say this film was supposed to be shot in New York, but we didn't have the budget, so we're faking it. So now you can see it's important that we line up that perspective, so I'm just going to skew it ever so slightly, and maybe up a bit. There you go. So now the perspective is fitted, and I find it a lot easier to do that inside of here rather than After Effects. So what you want to do is, you've got welcome to, new, and York. You want to merge these. So click the top one, hold Shift, and it selects all of them. So I'm going to right click and go, where is it? Merge. What am I looking at? I can't find it in here. Well, what you can do is do Control or Command and E, and it flattens them all into one. So there you go. It's called York, so I'll just call this text. There you go. So welcome to New York. So what you want to do now is just export this as a TIFF image. So I'll go File, Save As, and we'll call this text, and we'll go make a TIFF. Okay, save. and save transparency, discard layers. Okay. Right, now obviously your assignment is to track a hand with dots on and then apply something to it. So obviously you're not removing text from a sign. It's a little bit different, but it's still the same practice. If you're putting a scar on the back of the hand, you can line up the perspective in Photoshop and import it as an TIFF image. So it's very much the same. So what I'm going to do now is, first of all, I've got this. We're back into the tracking. So we've got this tracking data, but we need to kind of export this tracking data. So the way we do it is we have to create a new null object. All this is, and I right click then, went to new null object, and you can also go to layer, new, and then null object. All this does is it gives you a layer which is completely blank. You can't see anything on it. It's completely blank, okay? And I'm just going to rename this to tracking data, and we're just going to apply all our data onto here. So in order to export this out, remember we're still in layer mode, not in composition, still in layer. You need to go to edit target, and it's just say that all that means is, where am I putting this information? Which layer is this going on to? You want to make sure that your null object, and what I've called mine tracking data, is selected, and click OK. Then you need to click apply, and apply to the X and Y, and that's fine, that's what you want to do. Click OK. So now this null object has got all of this keyframe data on there. So if we come back into, we're in our composition window now, you can see that that null object moves with the sign, okay? And so the next thing we need to do is double click. We're going to import our Photoshop work. So we've got sign clean version 2 and text. So I'll import these. Make sure you click pre-multiplied and click OK. And pre-multiplied, OK. First of all, I'm going to drag my sign clean down onto here, and you can see it gets rid of that. Now if we move forward, you can see it doesn't stick to it. But this is the beauty, this is the good bit. We've got our tracking data here. See this little whip? See this little icon? This swirl? If you click and drag, this links the two layers. So when we click and drag from sign clean to tracking data, what that says is all the positional, all the keyframe data hit you, all the keyframe data on this layer, we want to apply that to the sign clean. So now, when we come in, it's got all that data on there, and it sticks with it throughout. You can see that's sticking to it. So the next thing I want to do is the exact same thing for the text. So I'll click, drag this in, and we've got the text on there. And I want to get this whip, and I want to parent it to the tracking data. So you can see that follows across with it, which is good. Now, there's a couple things we want to do to make this text sit in here. First of all, the edges are too crisp. Okay, if you look at the edges of this, it's a little bit blurred. So first thing we want to make sure we want a blur on there. The one I go for is fast blur. So I'll click and drag that onto the text. And let's see, 3. No, that's a bit too blurred. Let's go for 2. Yeah, I think that's nicer. So on and off, you can see it's fitting on there a lot better. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to make sure the white points match up. So you can see that white on this sign is actually kind of a greyish blue, and this white stands out too much. It doesn't look real, so we want to modify that. And what we're going to use for that is levels. Click and drag this onto your text, and you've got this weird thing right here. So in order to make it a little bit greyer, we just drag this little white point down and make it, a little bit greyer, and already that's kind of matching up. But I want to add a little bit of cyan in there to make it a little bit more blue. So if we go into the reds and drag it down, you can see it makes it very blue, but we just want to do it very subtly, like very extremely minimally. That's probably it right there. So you can see we've got two effects on this. We've got fast blur and levels. So what we've done is we've matched the blur, which was already on there because it's, it wasn't completely in focus. In fact, this may benefit from being 1. Yeah, I think 1, blurriness 1. And you can see if we just minimize these and turn them both off, you can see how much that, how well that works now. Now the only other thing I want to do is, see we've got sign clean, this is our clean version, and the New York, welcome to New York. basically this little icon by here, and if you can't see it, just click toggle switches. This little icon by here is motion blur. So we've applied motion data, all this keyframe data. This has given these two layers motion, and we would expect when anything moves, we would expect it to have a little bit of motion blur. If you move your hand very fast in front of your face, you can see there's a sort of blur trail. So we want to turn this on by here and by here, and that won't directly do it. You've also got to click this, which enables a motion blur for the whole composition. Okay, so you probably won't see a difference, but well, you won't see it directly, but it'll make the subtlest of differences, and it'll look as if it fits a lot better. So now you can go ahead and you can preview your shot, and tell you what, I'll preview it, and then I'll pause it, and then I'll preview it, and then I'll show you once it's rendered. Okay, so we're back inside of After Effects, and we've got a little bit of an issue with mine, which is good. I want to show you how to resolve this issue. From 2 seconds onwards, you can see that it follows and it's tracked in there. But if we come back, and where is it? There, within the first second. So let's just play this bit. You can see there's a little bit of a slip. If we come in, you can see just by here it slips a bit, it slides, and that's not good. So I'm going to show you how we would resolve that. Now there's 2 ways. Sometimes if it happens quite a few times, I will just retrack it, and I'll pick new points. So let's click our footage and go to layer, because this is where we've got all our tracking data. And so what I'd do, sometimes if it does it a few times, I'd just choose another thing, like I'd track the Y and maybe this O. But what we can do is come in and watch. We know it's just by here. Actually, it's this one, yeah. You can see, if I go through frame by frame, you can see it's stick into the 2, stick into the 2, stick into the 2, then it slips. Can you see that little slip where it didn't track? So what you can do is select tracking point, and I'm going to come forward and track it again frame by frame for that bit, like so, and it's re-tracking that, so now it's sticking to it. So what I'll do is track forward for the, oh, right there, slipped again. So let's track forward frame by frame, see what's going on here. Track forward, and you will encounter this. Track forward, let's see where it slips, because I think it did slip again. At this stage, I'm almost thinking if it's going to keep on slipping, I would choose something like the O above, perhaps, maybe, I'm not sure. So let's track forward, and you can see now it is sticking there, which is good. So let's hope it does that for the full shot. So we're going to track through to the end again, and it's no worry, we can create another null object and reapply this data. Okay, so it's not a big issue. It's good that we spot it, and it's good that we spotted it in this tutorial, because I can show you how to fix those dodgy tracks. Because I tracked this piece of footage earlier, and there were no issues. I don't know why there was this time, but it's good because I can show you how we kind of manage that. So let's just wait until it tracks through to the end of the shot, halfway through. I'll pause it until it's tracked through to the end of the shot. Okay, so we are back. Are we recording? Yeah, we are back inside of After Effects, and I've retracked this too. And basically, we're going to have to reapply this data now. So I'm going to create a new null object again. We're going to call this, let's rename it to tracking data 2. And we want to go edit target like we did before. Change this to tracking data 2. OK, and then click apply. OK, so now everything's currently, can we pull this out a bit so we can see? Yeah, everything is, these two are currently linked to tracking data, which is layer 3, but we want to relink them to our new null object because we've modified it very slightly. So all we're going to do is pick whip it. This is called the pick whip. We're going to pick whip it to tracking data 2. Tracking data 2, and we can get rid of tracking data 1, like so. And now I'm going to preview it through so we can check if this one's done. So I'm going to pause it again, and let's see. Good news. we're back in now. So good news, when I play it through, there is no slip this time. So it's good, working better this time. So this tutorial shows you how to motion track, apply that motion to things you've imported, and how to also modify tracks which are broken and not working. So I hope you've learned quite a bit in this tutorial, and I'll catch you soon. Cheers, bye.